Hello everyone, welcome to this presentation given at the AMPS Livable Cities Conference. We are Pierre-Yves Therriault and Lefay, working at the Université du Québec à Trois-Rivières in occupational therapy. Our presentation is entitled The Importance of Situated Activity Analysis for the Empowerment and Inclusion of Living Spaces. The aim of this presentation is to presenting the theoretical proposition and discussing about its issues, and discussing about the importance of the activity analysis to enable the living spaces of the population. To do this, a contextualization will be proposed first, followed by the objectives of the project. Then the methodology and theoretical basis of our work will be presented, and the result will be then presented in the form of a case study, followed by a final discussion period. We start our reflection to the observation of a contradiction between the political and institutional discourses advocating autonomy and inclusion of the diversity, and the daily experience of stigmatization, inaccessibility of certain spaces and occupations for some parts of the population, like aging people, foreign people with disability. But we can find also a common desire to live in known and proven space and to preserve the autonomy of population. So, the diversity of the population who live in the same city is increasing during the last decades. Immigration or rural exodus generates a concentration of diversity in terms of social class, age, handicap, or culture. This diversity can contribute to grow the city. But to do that, we need spaces, private or public, more respectful of the characteristic of their users and the different step of their life. This is where the notion of inclusion becomes central. The necessity to match the need of this diversity with the quality of use of the environment, to tend toward autonomy and inclusion, and welcoming and take into account the diversity before the conception of spaces. And to do that, we need some conceptual and practical tools to help us to improve the capacity of our environment to be more inclusive. The aim of our project was to identify what spaces need to promote inclusion and optimize capabilities of people who use it. We have broken down this objective into 4 questions. How to support people in all their diversity to live out their occupation in space that are meaningful to them. What antecedents, like the factors influencing the conception of the space, need to be considered to facilitate empowerment in a space? What attributes needs to be identified in this space to consider it enabling? And what are the expected consequences of such a space for the population? Our methodology was inspired by the reflexive approach from a case study, and we analyzed our data from the enabling space theoretical framework that we will present to you to the next slide. To do our data collect, we use the activity analysis methodological approach that we will present you in the next few slides too. So now you can see here the concept of enabling space that is built in 3 parts. The first one, in blue, presents the antecedents. It's the factors that can influence the conception of an enabling space. The second one, in red, presents the attributes, the different elements that we need to find in the space to consider it as enabling. And the third one, in green, presents the consequences, what it is expected from this kind of space for the population. If we are looking at the antecedents in blue, we can find 3 levels of influence factors. Macroscopic, on the scale of a group of elements that influence a very large whole, such as a society, legislation, or economic policies, like building codes, professional requirements, program characteristics. Then we'll find the mesotopic, on the scale of an intermediate whole, such as a town, a district, an institution, like municipal bylaws, regulatory requirements, rules of civility, and citizenships. And then we'll find the microscopic scale at the level of the individual and his or her immediate surrounding, like what is the activity situation, the characteristic of the population who use it, how they are engaged in this process of enable their own space. So now, if we are looking to the attributes in red, we can find 6 elements. Security, as a safe place that offers guarantees of safety to the people who work there. Quietude, state of the people resulting from a context in which constraints are reduced as much as possible. Stimulating, like this is the idea of a fair challenge that encourage people to take action, to continue their efforts. Then the flexibility, yes, conceives the transformation to support the development of people at all time in its activity. Then the power to act, maintaining free will on the nation and the notion that players have a choice as to whether or not use the device available. And then the partnership, like how the space facilitates interaction, encounter and collaboration with the other people who use this space. It is important here to understand that the enabling space cannot stay enabled for a long time. The need and desire from the users can change quickly, and the space needs to be readapted often. If we are looking now to the consequences, we can find 4 of it. Well-being, like a subjective feeling with the space that is perceived as soothing, controlled, and safe. The notion of inclusion, open to the outside world, encouraging collaboration and investment in relationship with others. The development, like the space enables development of new skills at all stages of life. And the 4th is the commitment, decision-making autonomy and proactive behavior in occupational choice. To conclude, an enabling space is a stage that enables people to do what they want to do to the best of their potential. It becomes enabling when the actors with or without disabilities participate, engage, and contribute to transforming it. Now, we will present you our methodological approach. What is the activity analysis? Finally, it is understanding what people do, why they do it, and when they do it. There is like a quick definition from Lefay. Activity analysis is the most time-consuming and difficult part of the process, because it's the part that sets out the precise nature of the problem encountered. Claiming to solve a problem without first analyzing the activity would be like prescribing medication to a patient without having examined him, or wanting to perfect a medicine without knowing how it is built or how it works. More specifically, we have to ask ourselves a lot of questions to understand the situation, like where does the activity take place? What equipment is used? Who is involved in the activity? When? How much time? To do what? Which utility? What does this mean for the individual? Which meaning? This is an holistic and systemic approach. An holistic approach to understand the human, to understand the physiological factor, the cognitive factors, the psychological factors or the social factors, but also an holistic approach to understand the occupational situation in which humans evolve, like organizational factors, environmental factors, psychosocial, So we have to understand all these factors to have a holistic approach of the situation, and after made a good intervention to enable the safe pace. To conclude this part of the activity analysis, concretely, the activity analysis is built in 5 steps, close to the research action methodology. Firstly, there is the instruction of the request, like the reformulation of the needs and the need analysis. After, we will have a pre-analysis, like an open observation, exploratory interviews, formulation of hypotheses. After that, we will do the analysis, like in-depth data collection, with systematic observation, interviews, evaluation, measurements. And there we can try some experimentation with simulation, situational scenarios, that we will reanalyze our experimentation, and when we will be satisfied of what we'll find, we can do some recommendation and transform the spaces and the situation that we analyzed. The first part of our results presents the case that has been studied. Like we have Louis and Madeleine. They are 79 and 81 years old. They are married. So the family roles are spouse, parents, and grandparents. Their occupation, they are looking after their grandchildren, like before and after school. They going to theater and restaurant, like every week. There is a particularity of this couple. It's the new diagnosis of Madeleine, that she have Alzheimer's disease. And the place they frequented the most is the home. They live in an intergenerational house and a public institution like theaters and restaurants. If we are looking at the different spaces they use, we can firstly talk about the residential past. Here we can find 3 kinds of spaces. The intimacy space, like the bedroom, the familiar space of the home, and the collective space of the residence. 3 kinds of space and 3 kinds of type of possible interactions. If we are looking now outside the house, there is a space surrounding the property. There is a public space, personal or public, like a park. We can also have a public transport or the public spaces of the destination district. There is 4 types of spaces and 4 types of occupation, needs, and challenges for the population. The third kind of place we can talk about is the service pass, like restaurants or theater. Here we can also find different types of space with its own challenges for the population, like building entrance, reception in the building, horizontal and vertical circulation, access to the services, to the amenities. If we choose to look at these spaces with the concept of enabling space, we can try to see if the space is enabled or not. But we cannot do that alone. We need the collaboration of the users. So, if we are looking the intergenerational house with the attribute of the enabling space, firstly we can see like the security attributes is completed. Like we have they are close to people who could help. The house is adapted with several professionals to the couple needs when they moved in 6 years ago. They have installed a domotic system. For the quietude attribute, we can find they have a location designed for the future. They have the possibility of privacy in the home if it's required. And they have individualized decoration of personal space. For the attribute stimulation, we can see they have regular contact and interaction with grandchildren for leisure activities and school support. And they have an adapted transport system of the municipality, giving them easy access to the public institutions. Concerning the flexibility of this space, the house is designed to allow reorganization, so Louise and Madeleine can easily transform their own space of the house. Concerning the power to act, the home domotic system can be deactivated if they don't want to use it, and there is an independent space that allows you to maintain your independence in your daily activities. And for the last attribute, the partnership, Louis and Madeleine have a common project with their son and daughter-in-law, like the intergenerational house. They are sharing daily outdoor and indoor tasks with their families, and they have meeting places like large shared lounge and adjoining garden. So they can talk often and have the possibility to exchange with the people who use the environment with them. So to conclude, to contribute to transform a city into a livable city, it is central to understand the human needed in his singularity, his occupational situation, and the space in his singularity too. The notion of diversity and inclusion mean recognizing the expertise of the peoples involved as equivalent to the external professional consultants. We need also the activity analysis to understand reality, taking into account of the experience of the people and identify the specific characteristics of the space based on the needs of the users. It's getting away from the idea of an universal space. We also need an intersectorial and interdisciplinarity reflection to understand the space in its entirety and complexity, right from the planning and design phase and over time, and to equip stakeholders to reflect on the concept of space, its occupancy and real needs, take a holistic, constructivist approach to the issues of health. And it gives pride of place to architects and town planners. By this global comprehension, it will be easier to adapt the space to the needs of peoples and facilitate their engagement and their sense of belonging. Thank you, everyone.